in an op-ed that was published today, Congressman Steve Scalise, the minority, I always want to call him the majority, but hopefully he will be soon, whip, writes that Congress has already gone big. So big, in fact, that more than $1 trillion of previously enacted assistance remains unspent. Why aren't we talking more about this? That's $1 trillion that's still sitting out there unspent, and we're about to blow another $2 trillion before the first $1 trillion is even spent.
Well, that is a point of emphasis, and we've got to keep talking about it. I mean, and when you think about it, the Democrats have already said that this $2 trillion bill that we're looking at right now, that's just another start. That's just another reset for them. So you got $1 trillion out there, add the 2, and then they want to blow a whole bunch of other money, and that's why you have inflationary pressures going. You got people who aren't getting the money they're supposed to get, and believe me, if you've got that much floating around out there, you got corruption somewhere.
You know, this stimulus package includes items that have nothing to do with COVID and getting Americans help that they need right now. Can you help our viewers understand some of the stuff that's in there that is pork that's unnecessary?
Well, some of my favorites are about $470 million going to the National Endowment of the Arts, National Endowment for Humanities, to libraries and foundations in that way. We're sending $750 million overseas. In case somebody else wants to get COVID treatments anywhere else that we should be funding, people think. We're doing COVID treatment testing for animals. We want to see what animals are more susceptible to COVID so we can maybe protect animals in the future. We're also sending money, by the way, to bail out blue states. That's part of this big thing, too. That's a huge part of this thing. So when we start looking at this, you say, look, why are we doing this? It is because this is promises made not to the American people, but to special interest groups that help the Democrats get funding and get elected to office. That's what this is about, because you have $1 trillion there that should be reassessed, reevaluated, and reapportioned to the places that really need it, whether it's getting vaccines, whether it's helping small businesses, whether it's helping to get schools open. By the way, there are tens of billions of dollars already in there, in that $1 trillion, for schools to get reopened and to be reopened safely. That's what's going on here.
You know, you mentioned the blue states getting bailed out. Lindsay and I talked about this just a moment ago, but my home state of Rhode Island, Senator Jack Reed, he's on the Appropriations Committee. He talked about the fact that he estimates they're going to get like $1.1 billion, and that could be used to wipe out its debt of $500 million. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wiping out your bad debt that you made because you overspent have anything to do with COVID? I mean, we're literally rewarding bad behavior, bad spending. And I don't think that anybody gets this, because when you look at these other shows in the media, they talk about the checks that people will get. Well, if you just focus on the checks, I get it. But they've hung this stuff on like ornaments on a Christmas tree.
No, that's exactly right. And by the way, if $1.6 billion is necessary to wipe out $500 million in debt, I mean, that's 3 times your debt. That's crazy. And tell me this, why does a $15 an hour national minimum wage, what's that doing in a COVID relief package? All of this is just pork, and I mean, we had 30 amendments in the committee I sit on last week, and we couldn't get a single one through. And those were to prevent duplication, so you can't get the same money twice. It was to prevent corruption and make sure that you certified that you actually needed the money. Those types of things. They wouldn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, there has to be some board of checks and balances to make sure people who need it, get it. People who don't. It's been interesting to see some pushback from folks on the left, even liberal economists like Lawrence Summers, who was the former Treasury Secretary for Bill Clinton and economic advisor for Barack Obama, said that Biden's stimulus package could cause inflation pressures unlike any that we've seen in a generation, with consequences for the value of the dollar and financial stability. Do you agree with this assessment, and what does that actually look like?
No, he's exactly right. And we're already seeing inflationary pressures. As soon as you cut down the Keystone Pipeline and made us energy dependent again, that cuts at the foundation. And so that will cause inflationary pressures. You're already seeing it at the gas pump. But when you devalue your dollar, what that means is everything else is going to cost more dollars. That's where the inflation starts kicking in, and that's where we're already seeing that pressure. The previous, not the previous administration, but 2 administrations ago, they changed the markers to define what inflation is. But if you go back to the original markers that have been there for decades, we're already starting to see that pressure. And when that gets there, that means that people who are on fixed incomes, people who get Social Security, retirees, people who are low-wage earners, unskilled labor, they will feel that pinch far worse than anybody else. And that's what you're going to see. And then they'll say we need a bigger bailout package or a different kind of bailout package in the future. And that just really is going to cause a lot of heartache and pain in the short term. Actually, it's probably within 3 to 6 months would be my guess before you start seeing some real significant inflation.
Congressman, I want to thank you for being on the show and helping us break this down. But if respectfully, I'd like to I think there are strength in numbers. And I think that you and your colleagues need to start getting together and ringing the bell on what's going on here. Because it's one thing to help people in need who have been out of their jobs, especially those through no fault of their own, but to spend $2 trillion on all of this stuff and put our children further in debt. Frankly, it's not even our grandchildren. It's like our great-great-grandchildren, the way we're spending. I think we need to call attention to this. Everybody thinks this is so great because they're focused on the checks, and maybe that's what we should be focused on. But we cannot let the Democrats get away with this. And I hope you and your colleagues will get together collectively and ring the bell before it's too late.
Amen, Sean. And I'll tell you that Freedom Caucus is ringing the bell. Good. But a lot of our other members of the conference, we've got to be louder, stronger, and we need Americans. Okay. We need the 74 million people that voted for Donald Trump to stand up and say, no, please don't do this to us.
All right, we'll do our part. You're going to do yours. Let's see how we do. Congressman Andy Biggs, thank you for joining us.